Welcome back to our channel. Today, we will explore a new case, the case of Cynthia George. On the afternoon of June 16, 2001, an attack at a gas station in Akron, Ohio, shattered the peaceful atmosphere and claimed the life of a successful businessman once admired by the upper class. Ed George and Cynthia George were well-known residents, considered among the wealthiest people in the state of Ohio, USA. Ed was a successful Lebanese businessman who owned a banquet hall and a nightclub. He was one of 8 children in a Lebanese Catholic family. After completing his education at the University of Michigan, he joined the family business founded by his father, Edwin George, in 1948. Although the original building was destroyed by fire, Ed rebuilt it and expanded the venue to include an entertainment center for events. At its peak, the establishment hosted renowned musical acts. Cynthia George, Ed's wife, was a charming and attractive socialite, known for her petite frame, blonde hair, and striking blue eyes. They had 7 children together. Cynthia grew up in North Canton in a low-income family. Her father worked as a miner, and her mother took care of the home and children. Lacking exposure to wealth, Cynthia began working at a young age. Although she couldn't afford higher education, she quickly realized that her looks could open doors to a more comfortable life, leading her to pursue a career as a dancer. When Cynthia was 20 years old, she attended a nightclub casting call in 1978 managed by Ed, who was 15 years her senior. Although she didn't get the job, she caught Ed's attention, and they began dating. A devout Catholic, Ed was in no hurry to get married. However, after 6 years together, they married in a lavish ceremony attended by over 500 guests. This marriage fulfilled Cynthia's dream of a luxurious lifestyle. Cynthia and Ed moved into a spacious mansion with 5 bedrooms and 5 bathrooms. They wanted children, and over the next few years, Cynthia gave birth to 4 daughters. Ed felt this wasn't enough, so they adopted 2 boys. In 1994, at the age of 40, Cynthia became pregnant again and had another girl. The family comfortably managed their large household with the help of servants and a steady income from an upscale restaurant at the club. Despite his busy work schedule, Ed always made time for his children. He would comb his daughter's hair every morning and help them with their homework in the evenings. Being health-conscious, he never missed any of their sporting events. Meanwhile, Cynthia relied heavily on nannies to care for the children and enjoyed a leisurely life of partying and shopping. Her husband supported this lifestyle, giving her plenty of freedom. Despite his substantial wealth, Cynthia often complained about receiving too little money, even though she indulged in whatever she wanted. In reality, Cynthia was not as decent as she initially appeared. From the early years of their marriage, she had lovers her husband knew nothing about. She flirted and met different men right at his club. One of her main lovers was Jeff Zack, a tall and charming man known for his appeal to women. He had Israeli roots. In 1976, he dropped out of school and moved to Israel to explore his Jewish heritage. He became a citizen of Israel and served in the army as a paratrooper. Jeff was multilingual and claimed to have worked as a special agent involved in real combat operations. After 3 years, he returned to the United States. At 29, he met a beautiful brunette named Bonnie Cook in an Arizona restaurant. They quickly fell in love, got married, and planned to have children. During this time, Bonnie discovered a different side of her husband. She noticed that Jeff seemed to have 2 contrasting personalities. One was calm and gentle, while the other was aggressive and cruel. These personalities appeared unpredictably. 2 years after their wedding, they welcomed a son. During this period, Jeff attempted to start a new business. He had many different startup ideas, but none were successful. They managed to make ends meet and moved into a comfortable two-story house in the small town of Stowe, Ohio. There, Jeff started a business involving vending machines. Although he became somewhat calmer over time, he still frequently experienced angry outbursts. His violent nature even led to several legal issues. Shortly after moving in, one evening, Bonnie and Jeff were dining at Ed's club when Bonnie noticed her husband staring intently at a beautiful stranger. During dinner, Jeff even complimented the blonde multiple times, which greatly upset Bonnie. This attractive woman was Cynthia. That night, Jeff also met Ed, the owner of the club, and realized that building a friendship with him could significantly benefit his business. He spent the rest of the evening socializing with Ed and his wife, leaving Bonnie alone at the table. Jeff and Ed quickly hit it off and became friends. Eventually, Bonnie and Cynthia also grew close, regularly visiting each other's families and celebrating holidays together. Ed invested in Jeff's business by purchasing 100 vending machines and connecting him with valuable partnerships. This investment allowed Jeff to place machines in prime locations throughout the city, leading to the success of his business. Despite the rapid growth of the business, Bonnie soon became the primary breadwinner in the family. Her career as a real estate agent was thriving. During this time, Jeff withdrew somewhat from business responsibilities and spent more time with their son. The boy helped service vending machines, restock them, and carry out scheduled maintenance. Jeff also started attending his son's training sessions and sporting events. Although the lives of both families appeared ideal from the outside, problems persisted behind closed doors. At the time, Cynthia, who was 40 years old, struggled with depression. Her friends encouraged her to participate in a local beauty contest in Ohio in 2000 specifically for married women over 21. Although Cynthia met the age requirement, she would be competing against younger women, many nearly half her age. Despite this challenge, she was determined and motivated. Winning the contest could allow her to represent her state at the national level and potentially advance to international competitions. The prizes included gold jewelry and complimentary beauty salon treatments. Cynthia was driven by a desire to win and prove that she was the most beautiful woman in the city and the state. Her main goal was to gain influence. To prepare for the beauty contest, she tightened her diet and increased her training. Ultimately, Cynthia placed third in the competition. Despite her disappointment, she held her head high and smiled when the winner was announced. Competing at 40 years old as a mother of 7 against 20-year-olds was a significant achievement in itself. Even though she didn't win first place, her popularity grew. On June 16, 2001, multiple calls came into the police station near a gas station reporting an attack on the driver of a Ford SUV. 2 witnesses heard an explosion and saw a man, injured in the head, still alive but struggling to breathe. Fortunately, a nearby nurse intervened, with help from another bystander, to pull the victim out of the car and provide first aid. They called emergency services and managed to keep the driver alive until paramedics arrived. The man was rushed to a medical center, where doctors did everything they could to save him. However, he tragically died just minutes after arrival. Law enforcement quickly secured the area and the vehicle. The driver's side window was shattered. The bullet had entered through the cheek and exited the other side of the skull, breaking the passenger window. The deformed bullet was later discovered on the street near the car, while the cartridge case was found approximately 100 meters away from the parking lot. Witnesses, including a gas station employee named Carolyn Hyson, saw the victim arrive just before the attack. Shortly after, a motorcyclist pulled up, calmly approached the driver's side window, and attacked him with a firearm. Carolyn had a clear view of the attacker as he looked directly at her before getting on his motorcycle and riding away. He was a stocky man with dark hair, dressed entirely in black, resembling Ghost Rider, which seemed unusual for a summer day. However, he was wearing a helmet, so she couldn't see his face. Meanwhile, she was able to provide a detailed description of the motorcycle. It was a Street Fighter model, black and gray with neon green lights. She recalled that this distinctive man had been seen riding back and forth on the street multiple times, as if he was deliberately waiting for his target. After Carolyn reported the incident at work, 2 managers ran out to the car. They were the ones who provided first aid and called an ambulance. The police quickly accessed the gas station's surveillance footage, but unfortunately, the quality was too poor to identify the attacker. They could see the motorcycle, but not its license plate. Detectives began investigating the identity of the murdered man in order to compile a list of potential suspects. To their surprise, they discovered that many people had negative opinions about him. Jeff was known to be difficult, hot-tempered, and often argued with neighbors over trivial matters. The investigation revealed that Jeff had several problematic business relationships and was involved with married women. He also had a criminal record. In 1981, he was convicted of running an illegal escort agency in Arizona, at the store where he frequently purchased supplies for his vending machines. People spoke poorly of him. He was notorious for flirting with attractive female employees, many of whom were schoolgirls working part-time. One witness recounted an incident involving a 17-year-old girl whom Jeff harassed to obtain her phone number. After she reluctantly provided it, he began calling her incessantly, offering money for intimate favors. This harassment continued until the girl's father intervened, threatening Jeff with legal action for corrupting a minor. There were other similar incidents, which further damaged his reputation. Detectives were aware that many individuals might have had motives to seek revenge against him. When the police arrived at Jeff's family home to inform his wife about the incident, she was shocked and began to cry. They had been married for 15 years. Although she couldn't believe what had happened, she didn't seem especially surprised. Given her husband's controversial reputation and the many people who disliked him, Bonnie recounted the events of the day her husband was killed. That morning, Jeff was at home with his wife and son. He needed to go on his usual trip to check on the vending machines and restock them. Jeff asked his son for help, but the boy, upset with his father, refused. This prompted an argument between them, which Bonnie mentioned was a common occurrence. She herself was tired of her husband's behavior, as he often treated her poorly. She admitted that she had been considering divorce. Fortunately, the teenager's refusal to accompany his father may have saved his life. Typically, when disagreements arose, Jeff would react aggressively toward his son. During one such instance, he attempted to involve Bonnie in an unpleasant argument, but she chose to ignore him. He then claimed to have found a new woman who was superior to Bonnie in every way. She recognized this as yet another attempt to provoke her and continued to disregard his comment. To back up his claim, Jeff left the house, stating that he was going to see his mistress. However, in reality, he went to wholesale warehouses to purchase items for the vending machines. For several hours, he was seen in various stores arranging merchandise, which was confirmed by witnesses and surveillance footage. The trip ended with a stop near a gas station, where the killer acted quickly. There was reason to believe that Jeff was a habitual liar. He frequently confided in a friend, even sharing intimate details of his life. The police interviewed this friend, who confirmed that Jeff often exaggerated his past to fit in with wealthier social circles. They also spoke with the victim's son, who supported his mother's account of the conflict with his father that morning. He struggled with mixed emotions regarding his parents. He loved his father, as they had grown closer recently. However, he was deeply troubled by his father's treatment of his mother. Having witnessed years of emotional abuse and infidelity, the boy was eager to help find the killer. Jeff's numerous betrayals seemed like an important clue. In addition, shortly before the murder, Jeff had deceived contractors who were doing construction work for him. He paid them only about $7,000, far less than the original agreement, using a far-fetched excuse. However, these builders had a confirmed alibi. Bonnie stated that she didn't have any specific suspicions about the killer, but described Jeff as having a nasty and aggressive personality, which could have led him into trouble at any moment. She mentioned that he frequently received threatening messages and calls. One particularly strange message was saved on their answering machine, and she played it for the police. It had been received on Wednesday, June 13th at 2:55 p.m. from a man. According to Bonnie, when Jeff listened to the message, he became visibly agitated. Previously, he had often taken such calls lightly, sometimes even joking about them. But this time he grew restless and began pacing the room, deep in thought. Bonnie didn't know who the caller was, but she felt the voice on the recording sounded menacing. After the message, the caller said goodbye and mentioned they would speak again soon. Bonnie revealed that her husband went into hiding for several days after receiving the call. He only returned home on Saturday morning, just before his death, and was in a very bad mood. The police interviewed all of Jeff's relatives and friends. Even his parents described Jeff as a swindler and a manipulator, someone unreliable, easily distracted, and involved in mischief and intimidation. During their investigation, officers found a small amount of illegal substances in Jeff's pockets, opening another potential line of inquiry. It seemed Jeff may have had connections to the criminal underworld, or possibly owed someone money, which could have been a motive for the murder. However, this lead also failed to produce any breakthroughs. A forensic expert established further details about the cause of death. The bullet entered through Jeff's right ear, damaging his oral cavity and causing severe bleeding. Within minutes, his lungs filled with blood, leading to suffocation. Ironically, the wound itself was not immediately fatal. After speaking with people connected to Jeff, the detectives eventually contacted the Georges, who had a close relationship with him. They discovered that Cynthia was one of Jeff's mistresses, and that their affair had lasted nearly a decade. This revelation drew significant attention during the investigation. The investigators also learned that Cynthia had a history of infidelity, maintaining several extramarital relationships. When detectives arrived at the Georges mansion, Cynthia answered the door. She appeared disoriented, speaking slowly and in a confused manner. She claimed she already knew about the murder because her husband had shown her a newspaper reporting Jeff's death on the front page. This news had deeply upset her. Cynthia was reluctant to answer many of their questions, giving vague responses to some and ignoring others altogether. Ed also responded evasively, denying any involvement of their family in the tragedy. They were clearly trying to avoid being connected to the investigation or appearing in police reports, as this could damage their reputation. Cynthia provided an alibi for both herself and Ed, which was later verified. Surprisingly, Bonnie was fully aware of the affair between her husband and Cynthia. Jeff had informed his son about the relationship several years after it began. Though the reason for this disclosure remained unclear, this painted a very negative picture of Jeff's character. Bonnie had first suspected the affair as early as 1998 when she accidentally overheard a phone conversation between Jeff and Cynthia. Although she caught him being unfaithful, He managed to reassure her and deflect her concerns, realizing she needed stronger evidence. Bonnie decided to spy on her husband and eventually confirmed that her suspicions were correct. By the end of 1999, Jeff confessed that he had been involved with Cynthia for 10 years. He claimed that their relationship had ended and that they were now just business partners. Jeff's mother supported Bonnie's claims, stating that she was aware of her son's infidelities, including his involvement with Cynthia. Jeff frequently shared his personal thoughts with his mother, though she also insisted that he loved and respected Bonnie. After speaking with close friends of the George family, the police uncovered several intriguing details. Jeff met Cynthia at a club in 1991 where he pretended to be a doctor. When Cynthia discovered he was lying, he invented a new story, claiming to be a special agent. This deception captivated Cynthia, a socialite. Interestingly, it was Cynthia, not her husband, who wrote the check to purchase Jeff's vending machines. Her feelings for Jeff were partly explained by Ed's preoccupation with work, which left her feeling neglected. Some suspected that Ed might have been aware of the affair for years. However, his strong Catholic beliefs prevented him from ending his marriage to the mother of his 7 children. Others believed he was completely unaware of the situation and blindly trusted his attractive wife. During the interrogation, the nanny shared valuable insights. She described Cynthia as self-centered and noted that Cynthia paid little attention to her children. She also witnessed Cynthia and Jeff spending time together with their children. She mentioned that Jeff treated his mistress similarly to how he treated his wife, including an incident where he hit Cynthia in public, leaving a bruise on her face. Additionally, it was revealed that Cynthia's youngest daughter might have been the result of an affair, as Jeff showed a great deal of affection toward the little girl and often took her for walks. It seemed unlikely that someone like him would invest so much time in another man's child. Due to these suspicions, Cynthia's youngest daughter underwent a DNA test, which confirmed that Jeff was indeed her father. After leaving the doctor's office with the little girl, Ed stated that he didn't care about her biological parentage. He would love her just like his other children. Eventually, Cynthia admitted to having an affair with Jeff, but kept her other secret relationships hidden. It's difficult to believe that Ed wasn't deeply troubled by his wife's infidelity at that moment. A few weeks before the murder, Ed tried to address some issues. He apparently suspected that Jeff was having an affair with Cynthia and wanted to protect her from him. However, Jeff refused the restraining order. Furthermore, Jeff's son reported that his father had shown fear of Ed in the weeks leading up to the incident, making Ed the primary suspect. However, detectives lacked evidence to prove his involvement. Ed's alibi checked out, but this did not eliminate the possibility that he might have hired someone to commit the crime. A reward was offered for information regarding the murder. An informant, the ex-girlfriend of a man named John Zaffino, reached out to the police. She recalled that in 2001, John had mentioned beating up an Israeli. After hearing about the murder of Jeff Zack, who was identified as a former Israeli paratrooper with gray hair, she wondered if there was a connection. She contacted John, but he was evasive. It also came to light that John owned the same type of motorcycle that was seen at the scene of Jeff's murder. This prompted law enforcement to focus on the 36-year-old John, who had a reputation for being very cruel and dangerous. Shortly after, she ended the relationship because she feared for her safety after experiencing multiple incidents of domestic violence. The woman decided to call John and asked several leading questions. Through their conversations, it became apparent that John might be involved in Jeff's death. She also engaged in several more similar phone calls, attempting to extract a confession from him, but he responded in a paranoid manner, avoiding direct answers. Upon investigating John, it was discovered that he had access to a .357 Magnum weapon, which was the same type as the murder weapon used to kill Jeff. Interestingly, it was also confirmed by multiple witnesses that he knew Cynthia. The story unfolded. Cynthia met John, an unemployed truck driver, in 2000, and they began an affair while she was still in a relationship with Jeff. 9 months later, in May 2001, she decided to end her relationship with Jeff and asked him to stop contacting her. However, Jeff was persistent and continued to call. Cynthia's husband noticed these unusual phone calls and suspected her whenever he answered the phone. The caller would hang up immediately. Ed did not want a public investigation or attention drawn to his private life, so he took no action. Yet, he suspected that his wife's relationship with John was at the center of the problem. Details of their relationship became clearer when several expensive purchases that Cynthia had given John were discovered. John claimed he was at a car dealership about 40 minutes from the crime scene at the time of the attack. However, the investigation revealed that he was actually on a mobile phone call, and his location was tracked to a gas station. He didn't arrive at the car dealership until 2 hours later. Investigators were able to track John's geolocation and review his phone records, leading them to suspect that Cynthia had ordered the crime. Adding to the evidence, a voice analysis confirmed that a threatening phone call received by Jeff had come from John. The police believed that Jeff had begun threatening Cynthia when she decided to end their relationship, which he strongly opposed, quite consistent with Jeff's temperament. Feeling threatened, Cynthia decided to take action against him. On the tragic morning, after an argument with his wife and son, Jeff looked up information about Cynthia, whom he was deeply infatuated with and wanted to keep in his life. The prosecution presented a clear narrative, but there was no solid evidence directly implicating Cynthia, so only John was taken into custody. John Zaffino's trial began on February 26, 2003. When called to testify on March 7, Cynthia chose to invoke her Fifth Amendment right, allowing her to avoid self-incrimination. Ed made the same choice. The main witness for the prosecution was John's ex-girlfriend, who detailed events from John's life leading up to the murder. The investigators also presented the murder weapon and confirmed that John owned it. Ballistic tests eliminated any doubts about this connection. However, there were no eyewitnesses identifying John as the shooter, nor was there any DNA evidence at the crime scene, which made the prosecution's case more challenging. On March 10, 2003, after 4 hours of deliberation, John Zaffino was convicted of conspiracy to commit murder. He was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole, 23 years after the verdict. Bonnie approached John, telling him that he was merely a pawn while Cynthia continued living a lavish lifestyle, and asked if it was worth it. She likely hoped John would express his anger and reveal the truth, but he chose to remain silent. For a long time, the police lacked solid evidence against Cynthia. To bring her to justice, they gathered information about her involvement piece by piece. On January 10, 2005, Cynthia was arrested while shopping. Ed posted a $2 million bail, allowing her to remain at home until her trial, which began in November 2005. The case gained momentum when new evidence emerged. Investigators discovered that John had previously planned to attack Jeff on May 8 while Jeff was relaxing in a national park. During this time, John was on a bridge, talking on the phone with Cynthia for about 3 hours. She was also on another call with Jeff, coordinating their actions. The attack was interrupted when a park ranger noticed John's weapon case. When questioned, John claimed it was a misunderstanding and said he was waiting for his girlfriend. A week later, a mushroom picker found a weapon in the park. which provided indirect evidence of Cynthia's involvement in the conspiracy. Ed hired a powerful defense team of 5 lawyers for his wife, significantly reducing the prosecution's chances of success. During the trial, many revealing details emerged about Cynthia and her affair with John. Investigators noted that Cynthia even paid for John's lawyers. One significant piece of evidence included recorded phone conversations between John and his sisters, which featured incriminating remarks where he pressured Cynthia to uphold her part of their agreement. The defense argued that Cynthia had no reason to want Jeff dead and no motive to be involved in a murder plot. In contrast, the prosecution firmly argued that Cynthia had a clear motive for the murder. After their breakup, Jeff tried to keep Cynthia in his life. They frequently argued, especially concerning their daughter, whom he had threatened to take with him to Israel. Cynthia also feared that Jeff might expose their affair, which could lead to her public humiliation. During the trial, 2 letters from Cynthia to John, who was in prison, were presented as evidence. These letters revealed their ongoing romantic relationship and showed that she remained deeply connected to him. In one letter, she sent him a Bible and expressed that she frequently prayed for him. Despite facing public humiliation due to Cynthia's actions, Ed defended her against the conspiracy charges. He emphasized his commitment to their marriage vows and refused to seek a divorce. Surprisingly, Cynthia chose not to testify in her defense, and John also did not take the stand. Ultimately, Cynthia was found guilty of conspiracy to commit murder and was sentenced, with the possibility of parole after 1 year. After the trial, Ed continued to defend his wife. He hired new lawyers who filed an appeal on her behalf. Cynthia served 16 months before she was released on March 22 after Ohio's 9th District Court of Appeals ruled that the circumstantial evidence presented by prosecutors, including phone records, correspondence, and financial documents, was insufficient to prove her guilt.